All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Donna Waits, and I'm the president of the Sisters of Charity Foundation of South Carolina. I'm very happy and very honored that you are spending this hour with us, taking time out of your busy schedules. 2026 marks a time of change for our foundation as we launch a new 3-year strategic plan. I know that many of you were able to join us for our webinars back in October where we shared details of the plan, and now we're excited to share even more information about how that strategic plan is going to guide changes in our grants. As we begin the new strategic plan and open our new grant applications, I want to assure everyone that the mission and values of the Sisters of Charity Foundation are not changing. We remain dedicated to reducing poverty through action, advocacy, and leadership. And we are committed to living out our core values of courage, compassion, respect, collaboration, justice, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in all that we do. Before we get started with our grants overview, I would like to invite Erica Wooten, the Foundation's Director of Culture and Values, to lead us in prayer. Erica?
Thank you, Donna. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, please bless everyone on this webinar and the work they do each and every day for those from marginalized communities. Bless each of us with the gifts that we need for our work to be successful. We also ask for the blessings of compassion, dedication, courage, and determination to continue to do this work, especially during these challenging times. We ask for your guidance as we come together to learn, to share, and to grow in understanding. Open our minds to new ways in which to do this work and deepen our commitment to the dignity of every person. Help us to listen with humility and to see the strength and wisdom present in every person and community we serve. Bless the organizations represented here today, their leaders, their staff, and all those they serve. May our work together be marked by respect, partnership, and a shared commitment to justice and the common good. Grant us wisdom in our decisions, courage in our advocacy, and compassion in all interactions. May our work and commitment lead to a more just and equitable world. We ask this in hope and in service. Amen. And now I will pass to Dr. Melinda Merrill, Senior Director of Grant Making and Strategy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erica, for that powerful opening prayer. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for registering for today's webinar to learn more about available grants from the Sisters of Charity Foundation in 2026. I'm Melinda Merrill, and Senior Director of Grant Making and Strategy for the Foundation. I'll begin our presentation today with an overview of our new grants and then turn it over to Ashley McGandy, our Grants Manager, who will review how to apply and the timelines for this year. We'll also leave time at the end to answer your questions. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions through the registration process. We've incorporated answers to most of these in the presentation, and we'll answer any others received during the Q&A time. But don't hesitate to drop your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat during the presentation today, and we'll get to as many as we can. With that, let's go ahead and dive into an overview of our 2026 grants. As most of you know by now, and as Donna just shared, the reason we made updates to our grants in 2026 is related to our new strategic plan. We released the plan back in October, and I'm going to share a few details of it now, but would invite you to visit our website to view the full plan at your convenience. Throughout the development of the strategic plan, we grounded ourselves in our history, our core values, and our understanding of poverty, asking where we could make the most lasting impact. It became clear to us early on that now is the time for us to lean into our values and work to drive long-term, sustainable change that addresses the systems keeping people in poverty. For too long, poverty has been seen as a matter of personal responsibility. But the truth is, we believe it's systemic and our work ahead is about transforming those very systems so that everyone has the opportunity to thrive. We know that for many of you and for many of our neighbors, this isn't an easy moment. The job market is tightening, federal funding is shifting, and other changes in the economy are affecting so many. But that's exactly why this focus matters now. By zeroing in on systems change, we're working to create the kind of durable solutions that make communities stronger and more resilient over time. The creation of our new strategic plan evolved through careful listening, reflection, research, and discernment. We engaged partners, including community members with lived experience, reviewed data, and asked ourselves where our resources can make the most difference in the years ahead. Out of this, we developed 4 goals and 18 total strategies that outline our work for the next 3 years. We have a long history of exploring what moves the needle on poverty in our state and have been increasing our investments into systems change work over the past several years. We realized through the strategic plan process that stepping fully into systems change work is the next natural step in our grant-making journey. When we talk about systems change, we're not just talking about tweaking programs or fixing one problem at a time. We're talking about transforming the conditions that cause those problems in the first place. As you can see on this slide, the strategic planning process also led us to choose 3 focus areas for our work over the next 3 years: economic mobility, housing security, and healthcare. In a few minutes, we'll get into the specifics of how we're defining systems change in these focus areas. To summarize for now, through our 2026 grants, we aim to support nonprofits who are serving South Carolina communities and working to change systems in these 3 focus areas so that they work for everyone, affirming the inherent dignity of every person. We believe that by focusing on changing systems, our communities will ultimately need fewer supportive services just to make ends meet, because the systems work for everyone and we'll have what we all need to truly thrive. Since the focus of our webinar today is on grants for 2026, I won't spend any more time discussing the strategic plan itself. However, I did want to share just a few takeaways with you all to consider as we move forward together. As I do so, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the thousands of partners we have funded over the years who provide direct services. While our funding opportunities are changing, our ability to support these partners in new ways, including through recognition of their achievements and deep impact in their communities, is an important thread for our work moving forward. As our work evolves, it is not in mission, but in depth. Narrowing our focus allows us to work alongside our grantee partners more deliberately, forming deeper, more authentic relationships that are rooted in trust, listening, and shared purpose, and engaging in hands-on collaboration. Although a fewer total number of grants are planned, larger investments give nonprofits the space to lead, grow, and drive change. Our advocacy will be more focused, shaped by the voices and lived experiences of communities, and aimed at the policies and systems that drive and perpetuate poverty. We're also embracing the power of narrative. To change outcomes, we must first change the way poverty is understood, not as individual failure, but as a systemic issue that we can and must address together. And we're continuing to partner across sectors in this broader anti-poverty network, because real, lasting change takes all of us. As we move forward in these areas, with purpose, with community, and with unwavering commitment to justice, our focus will always be on people, building together a South Carolina where everyone has what they need to live with dignity and opportunity. So as we dive into our 2026 grant opportunities, as a reminder, our foundation is committed to the practice of trust-based philanthropy. You can see the definition here on this slide. With an explicit goal of a world where funders and nonprofits collaborate with a shared sense of accountability to the communities they serve and support, trust-based philanthropy has and continues to guide our approach to grant making. Our commitment to shifting power, advancing equity, and building mutually accountable relationships, especially with communities that have been marginalized, directly represents our adherence to Catholic social teachings and our core values, especially related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. These core values guided us as we determined this next iteration of our grant making. The result is 4 brand new categories of funding starting in 2026 that you see here on this slide. For our current or recent grantee partners, we will no longer be funding grants in our immediate needs, breaking the cycle, and systems level change categories. Our intention in making this change is to put the weight of our investments fully upstream. Through responding to the complexities of poverty in this way, we can generate a larger impact through more intentional funding, highly focused work, and alignment across our foundation's activities. Our System Change Grant funding opportunity is a brand new approach that is designed to provide support to organizations seeking to change systems associated with economic mobility and housing security. We will spend more time today describing this opportunity. Our Healthcare System Change Initiative grants have been developed to promote system change in our additional focus area of healthcare, defined as affordability of and access to high-quality services that prevent disease and improve quality of life. This initiative is funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Because these grants are provided in collaboration with another funder, additional geographic requirements must be met. Therefore, these grants are offered by invitation only to nonprofits in Allendale, Bamberg, Barnwell, Colleton, Hampton, and Orangeburg counties. We're excited to share more about this initiative in the months to come, and please note we are not extending additional invitations to new grantee partners in this category at this time. Community engagement grants are a new offering in 2026 that builds upon our previous sponsorship opportunities. These community engagement grants will provide small awards of up to $1,500 to nonprofits for outreach or to address emerging needs in our three focus areas of economic mobility, housing security, and healthcare. We'll also cover this opportunity in more detail in just a few minutes. Finally, I wanted to provide a sneak preview of our planned capacity building grant funding opportunity anticipated to open in 2027. We recognize that there are likely nonprofits interested in or in the early stages of system change work that would like to receive additional support and guidance to engage in systems change. These capacity building grants are intended to help bridge the gap for organizations who want to build their muscle before applying for our systems change grants or other similar funding opportunities. Across all of these categories, there are a few basic eligibility requirements that all applicants for our funding should consider. First, only nonprofits serving South Carolina communities that are in good standing as an organization and in existence for at least 1 year are eligible to apply. If an organization or coalition is newly formed, we are able to consider the application if the applicant has a fiscal agent that meets these organizational requirements. Of course, the organization applying should have a focus on reducing poverty in at least one of our three focus areas. We also try to only fund work that is led and informed by community members. Work must occur in and/or be in support of at least one of South Carolina's 46 counties. Finally, whenever possible, our funding is provided as general operating support. Nonprofits know best how to utilize their precious resources. The next slide summarizes what we do not fund in any of our categories. In addition to what's already been covered, it's important to note our restrictions on capital campaigns, scholarships, and individuals. Except for the change in focus areas, these restrictions are the same as they were for previous rounds of foundation grants. Also at this time, our grants do not support work that is only directed toward children and youth younger than 18 years of age, such as school-based programs or youth mentorship programs. We recognize and acknowledge that earlier intervention, especially educational attainment among children and young adults, is a critical component of overall upward mobility. However, in our state, the efforts being poured into our children are being diminished when people enter the workforce and are faced with wages that are too low, benefits that don't meet their needs, housing that is unavailable or too expensive, and power that is in the hands of those at the top. Two, for our adults experiencing poverty, access to resources often means something other than employment. As the safety net continues to have holes ripped in it, we must address these reasons why some of our neighbors do not have the resources they need to survive. New in 2026, across all of our funding categories, we are seeking applications from nonprofits that are either grassroots, serving communities of color, and/or located in or primarily serving one of South Carolina's 12 persistent poverty counties. I believe on the next slide, those are listed. The intentional call out to these organizations is deliberate. In order to be aligned with our core values, but also to ensure that support is provided that directly addresses one of the main root causes of poverty in South Carolina, structural racism. So now let's get into some more specifics. The next slide has an overview of our systems change grants. We're looking for organizations and coalitions who are working to change the policies, power structures, and mindsets within our economic mobility and/or housing security focus areas. Requests for these grants may be up to $75,000 annually for efforts that seek change at the local or regional level, and up to $100,000 annually for statewide systems change efforts. As you are thinking about how your current or future work may align with systems change in our focus areas, I would encourage you to spend a few minutes with the definitions that we've put forward for the purposes of our grant funding this year. These are available on our website as well, so you can revisit them as needed. Certainly, these terms are often defined very differently by different people. As part of our strategic planning process, we reviewed research and evidence from multiple organizations, including many of our grantee partners, as well as listened to community voices and other inputs to help us understand what these terms mean for those experiencing poverty in South Carolina today. Our definitions, though, are just that, our definitions. As we continue to learn more about these issues, we will revisit these definitions as needed. So why have them at all? Well, we know that none of these focus areas are mutually exclusive, and applicants will need to tell us what specific system and its components they plan to address. By providing our definitions, we hope this will help potential applicants know best how their work may be a fit for our funding opportunities. So when we think about what a system is in this context, we recognize that the individual pieces that make up a system are interconnected for serving a single purpose. These are socially constructed, can be large or small, may overlap, and are often nested within other systems. Systems change most often happens when the individual parts of a system are redesigned in lasting ways so that the system works better for everyone. This kind of change is usually led by people who are directly affected by the system and know where it needs to improve. When systems change in this way, they become more fair, more just, and more responsive, especially for people in communities who have often been left out or harmed by how things work or have worked in the past. It is through changing those systems that we believe we can truly impact sustainable change in reducing poverty across our state. And we acknowledge that changing systems is work that takes years and even decades to get to the desired results sometimes. Our definitions of economic mobility and housing security are also provided on this slide, and I'll briefly read those. So for economic mobility, we define this as access to resources that improve economic status and opportunities over a lifetime. So that is a living wage, employment, benefits, training, assets, and power to make choices, such as through labor market supports. When it comes to housing security, we define this as access to stable, safe, and affordable housing. We know that that is a huge need in our state, and we need to do more to address those underlying causes of that crisis. So what would work funded through our Systems Change Grant funding opportunity look like? As you see on the slide, we've identified 4 categories that are critical for shaping our approach to systems change. We know that work is happening to address systems level issues in South Carolina currently. There are major achievements and progress that deserve to be acknowledged. What sets this new funding opportunity apart is the commitment to a path to move the conversation and the work further upstream. We think this is new and different from how other funders operate. Not only are we seeking population level results versus program level, but we're putting resources into place to bring these outcomes to bear. For nonprofits providing direct services, we hope that this opportunity is seen as a potential dedicated resource that can be used to free up capacity within your organization to do work that is rarely funded or even prioritized. As I explain each of these categories, please note that these descriptions are not exhaustive. Within each one, we recognize that nonprofits and the communities that they serve are the experts in driving systems change as those most proximate to the issues that clearly show the system is not working. Therefore, potential applicants may have other ideas that fit within these categories. Through listening to communities and partners and engaging in continuous learning, we are fulfilling an important part of our commitment to practicing trust-based philanthropy. The first category, participating in advocacy and lobbying, is probably the first thing someone thinks of when they hear the word systems change. We see this category including work to change policies, practices, processes, rules, and laws, impact resource flows such as reallocated and/or new funding streams, or to hold systems accountable to their intended purpose through the above as well as through litigation. Next, addressing unequal power means to us changing the distribution and dynamics of privilege, relationships, and tradition, organizing and building connections and coalitions that center community voices and perspectives, and supporting civic engagement, such as removing barriers to democratic participation and supporting those with lived experience in representing their community. One category that is included in this list that may be a bit surprising is affirming the dignity of people experiencing poverty. This is an area the Foundation itself will be working on over the next 3 years through our efforts to change the narrative of poverty in South Carolina. We envision that there are partners who will come alongside us in this work that may also be interested in receiving funding to support their work in changing these attitudes, mindsets, values, etc. around poverty in our state. Finally, we included implementing big impact, scalable, or innovative solutions as a category of systems change work. We recognize that there are community-driven solutions with positive effects already in place across South Carolina. However, these positive outcomes are not always equitably distributed to people who are historically and currently marginalized. Further, too often these solutions are the best kept secrets of their own community. If we want to bring these solutions to scale, it will require more than just that community replicating their solution in a different location in the state. Getting to scale demonstrates the ability of the solution's potential to make a big dent in a big problem. Reaching scale is when the solution actually achieves its full potential in a dramatic or exponential way. On this next slide, we have just a few examples of the kinds of efforts that may be funded through systems change grants compared with examples of work that were previously funded by the Foundation. And of course, by no means is this an exhaustive list of examples, and we're looking forward to learning from all of you the type of change work that is happening around the state. Hopefully this, though, is a helpful guide to you as you can see what changed regarding our funding priorities. As one example, tenant or renter organizing is an area that would potentially fit our second category of addressing unequal power within the housing security focus area. However, rental assistance for individuals is not something that would be eligible for funding. Similarly, focusing on advocacy that supports the development of a living wage would be a proposal potentially funded in our economic mobility focus area, compared to school-based programs that prepare youth for the workforce, which will no longer be funded. And lastly, building out statewide infrastructure that expands a program's impact would potentially fit our scalable solutions category. We will not be funding any single site program development or implementation at this time. One question that you may have is, what if we do both systems change and service delivery? If you do, that's great to hear. Systems change grants may be a fit for organizations or coalitions that do systems change work only, or it might be for organizations that are looking to add capacity to do more systems change work to benefit the population they serve through direct services. Finally, we are excited to announce our new community engagement grants for 2026. Organizations interested in these grants may request up to $1,500 for outreach, events, trainings, workshops, celebrations, or other activities that support their work in communities experiencing poverty in all 3 of our focus areas. Funding should be requested for activities occurring within 6 months of the funding date. The funding available is intended for one-time or occasional activities that engage communities experiencing poverty. These grants are not meant to support an organization's core programs and activities. And these grants cannot be used for fundraising events such as galas or capital campaigns. We will fund up to 15 of these awards in 2026, with a plan to increase the number of awards in years to come. And finally, before I pass it over to Ashley, I wanted to share some activities that we are planning for 2026 for our new grantee partners. In addition to funding, all of our grant recipients can expect us to provide more explicit support, including connections to other funders and partners, trainings and technical assistance, data and evaluation support, and advocacy engagement. We are excited to dig deeper, partner better, and support long-term results with our new focus. One question we are getting often is how we are going to measure our success in changing systems, and related, how we're going to ask our grantee partners to report on this. We all know that systems change work is complex, it's long-term, and it's not easily counted in numbers served. As our shift towards this work occurs, so must our strategies for evaluation. Our plan is to work alongside our grantee partners to learn from them on how they're currently tracking their progress. We aim to design our overall evaluation efforts to be responsive to the context of the work, to promote innovation, to engage in timely decision-making, and to use an inclusive participatory approach. I will also add that we expect to have continued relationships with our current and recent grantee partners, as well as others in the state that seek to reduce poverty. Our commitment to relationship building remains central to this work. To make a lasting impact on reducing poverty, we must continue to work together and learn from one another. For those specifically affected by changes to our grant making, we are here to provide support and share resources that may help identify new opportunities for funding through other sources. Still, we know that the transition we are making may be disappointing to organizations that we have previously funded or otherwise worked with closely. Please know that the changes to our grants that I've outlined today are not about stepping away from any organization or issue. Although the foundation will primarily focus on the 3 factors of economic mobility, housing security, and healthcare for the next 3 years, the interconnected nature of poverty means that the other structural barriers to poverty reduction will continue to be represented among our partners' work. Truly, under the big tent of the broader network of anti-poverty organizations working in South Carolina, we all have a unique role to play. We look forward to hearing your ideas and hope you will continue to be in touch. And I will now pass it to Ashley to provide a bit more detail on the technical aspects of our process for this year.
All right, thank you, Melinda. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here today. As Melinda said, I get to walk you through the steps of the grant application process. I'll be showing you a lot of screenshots today so we can stay within our PowerPoint slides, but all this information is currently on our website, so please be sure to look for it there. If you have any trouble finding anything, please reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction. Before I start into the process, I do want to share that we're not able to take meetings or phone calls about specific organizations and projects and their fit with our grants. If you believe your organization is a good fit, the process that I'm about to review is the way to share your ideas with us. And we do this because of the high volume of grant inquiries we receive. Having everyone complete a letter of intent or application is the most equitable way to make sure everybody has the same opportunity. So thank you for that. And then we can go to the next slide. And the first thing that every organization needs to do is review our inquiry checklist and determine if they meet our basic eligibility requirements. You can find a link to this checklist from our main grants page in the section titled Eligibility, and that's what's shown here. We also link to the checklist from the Systems Change and Community Engagement grant web pages. The checklist consists of 10 questions that you'll review and answer on your own. So there's no form that you fill out as part of this. The questions ask, does your organization align with the foundation's mission and values? Are you a nonprofit? Do you serve South Carolina communities? Do you address at least one of the foundation's 3 focus areas, the economic mobility, housing security, or healthcare? Have you been fully operating for at least a year? And then there was a question about fiscal sponsorship. You could have a fiscal sponsor who's been operating for at least a year. Does your organization align with Together SC's guiding principles and best practices? We link to those from that inquiry checklist. Does your organization collaborate with other organizations, nonprofits, businesses, faith-based organizations, or government entities? Does your organization adhere to lobbying limits established by the federal government? Do you have a detailed operating budget? And are your organization's approaches to reducing poverty informed by research, best practice models, and the communities you're aiming to serve? So if your organization can answer yes for every question, you're ready to take the next step. At this point, you would need to determine which grant is appropriate for you, either a systems change grant or a community engagement grant. On the web page for each of these, you'll find all of the great information that Melinda shared today, and you'll also find 3 key sections. One's additional funding considerations, one is application process and timeline, and one is selection criteria. and I'll be covering each of these in turn. I'm showing screenshots of the sections that are on the Systems Change Grant webpage, but there's the corresponding information on the Community Engagement Grant webpage as well. And all of these sections expand, and that's what we'll be looking at today. So for additional funding considerations, this is where you'll find information about the grant terms, expectations around reporting, other questions that you might have. I am going to take the time to go through this section in some detail because I think it might answer a lot of the questions we have in the Q&A section. So all grants are for 1 year. Systems change grants have the possibility of renewal up to 3 years. We intend to award up to 20 system change grants this year. Organizations cannot receive both a systems change grant and a community engagement grant from the foundation in the same year. Organizations are eligible to apply if they have an open 2025 grant from the foundation. I know some grantee partners of ours have just recently received funding. You're eligible to apply in any round. And while these are not application requirements, and I know Melinda mentioned them, we do strongly encourage applications from organizations that are grassroots, impacting people or communities of color, and located in and or primarily serving at least one of the 12 persistent poverty counties that are listed here. And lastly, systems change grant recipients are expected to participate in some grant making activities of the foundation, attendance at some events, engaging with visits from foundation staff, and submitting required grant reports. And then next, we'll take a look at the application process and timeline. This is the next section on the web page. This is where you'll find a link to the inquiry checklist. Links to previews of the LOI and application questions are available now. And this is also where you'll find links to the live LOI and application starting Tuesday, January 20th. So you cannot click through to the form right now. On Tuesday, you'll be able to. It's important to note here that only one LOI per organization will be considered per funding round. And I'll get to the rounds and timelines here in a second. So what are we going to ask when you submit an LOI or application for a systems change grant? Great question. Like I said, the previews of the actual questions are on our website now, but this slide shows you an overview. And you might notice that we're asking for a lot of information in the LOI, maybe more than some other LOIs that you've seen out there. And we're doing this so we can be very sure that an organization and the project is a good fit before inviting folks to apply. So in the LOI form, we're going to ask for basic organizational information, like how you work to reduce poverty, your location county, other counties that are impacted by your work. This is where we ask if you have a fiscal agent or sponsor. We're going to ask for foundation areas of focus your work aligns with. You can choose more than one if your work applies. And we're going to ask what type of systems change your proposal is for. These are the 4 categories that Melinda went over earlier: participating in advocacy and lobbying, addressing unequal power, affirming the dignity of people experiencing poverty, and implementing big impact, scalable, or innovative solutions. You can select all that apply to your work. So you're not set just to pick one. We're going to ask about your model for change, including what system your proposal is seeking to change, the history and context of that system, what part of the system you're working to change. We know these systems are massive and you might be working on a particular piece of the system, and how other systems might be impacted by the success of your work. We're going to ask about your impact on communities, including what populations are most impacted by the current system, any research or data you have that support that answer, community input and how you're using it to inform your work. And lastly, for the LOI, we ask who you're partnering with. We know this work takes partnership. So we want to know who else kind of is on your team as you look at this. Additional questions in the application include your short and long-term goals, the barriers that exist and what you're doing to reduce or eliminate them, how your organization has learned about the system you're addressing and your willingness to continue learning, and then the financial questions about your organization and about the proposed work. So the next slide is our grants portal. When you're ready to answer these questions and the forms are live on Tuesday, you'll log into our grants portal and that'll be linked from our website. The login page is shown here. And if you've applied for a grant from us in the past, you'll use your same account information. That hasn't changed. And otherwise, there's a button to create a new account. The text on this page points to some tutorials that the software offers, but you can always contact me. My information is on this page if you have any trouble or questions or need help kind of creating an account. When you're in the grants portal, you'll click on the apply page. There's an apply link at the top of the page. This is the current view, and you can see these two 2026 grants, and they have their preview buttons. On Tuesday, there will also be an apply button, and that will take you to the form that have all of the questions. So now let's talk about the evaluation process. With this screenshot, we are back on the Systems Change Grant webpage. We're posting our evaluation rubrics on the website so we can be as transparent as possible about what we're looking for as we review grants. So LOIs and applications are reviewed by foundation staff, and they're approved by our board of trustees, and at least 2 evaluators review all the LOIs and applications. When we're selecting which grant proposals to fund, the foundation considers 2 things: an application's individual score based on the rubrics posted on the grant webpage, and also the full portfolio of high-scoring applications. By considering all the applications together, we're able to ensure that the grants are not unfairly concentrated in one focus area or one geographic region of the state, etc. The rubrics on the website, and you can see the top of one here in this screenshot, they show what evaluators are looking for in your responses, and they'll tell you how we weight different responses. Some rows of the rubric will align directly with specific questions on the form, and others, like alignment with our mission and values, is something that we're looking for throughout all of the responses. So Melinda and I both mentioned that we're especially encouraging applications from grassroots, organizations impacting communities of color, and organizations serving persistent poverty counties. In the rubric, an organization gets 1 point for each of those criteria met. So we'll share the completed rubrics as well as any comments from evaluators as part of our feedback to applicants. And we will provide feedback for declined applications and LOIs, though we expect we won't be able to provide details to those organizations until after that current funding round is complete. So thank you for your patience. If your LOI or application is declined, we will get back to you with full feedback. All right, and now we'll talk about timelines. The Systems Change grants have 2 funding rounds each year, and the round that you choose to participate in is up to you. And I do want to reiterate, even if you have a current 2025 grant from the foundation, you can apply for either round if you meet the other requirements. You can submit your LOI at any time after the form opens on January 20th. And the foundation reviews LOIs on a monthly basis. So the sooner your LOI is submitted, the more time you'd have to complete the application if you were invited to apply. That said, we have posted the 2 LOI deadlines for each round, and that gives us enough time to get you feedback to submit the application. And this slide also shows when we'll notify applicants about grant decisions and the start dates for the grants. Again, these are on our webpage. Okay, so the community engagement grants, I want to end with just a few notes about these because these are the smaller grants. Our application is much simpler. We basically want to know if your activity aligns with our mission and focus areas, what you're doing, what the activity is, how the community has informed the activity, and the budget for the activity that's being funded. And I also want to note that there are no reporting requirements for the community engagement grants. The community engagement grants have 3 rounds per year. Like Systems Change grants, the round that you apply for is up to you. But note that we're looking to fund activities that are taking place within 6 months of receiving the funding, and then that may influence which round is best for you.
Great. Well, thank you. I responded to a couple more things in the chat, and certainly, as we've said, please follow up with us for additional questions, particularly around any technical issues. So Ashley's available to answer those as we move forward. But we really appreciate you attending and participating in the session today. Again, this has been recorded. We're going to share that as well as the link to the slides. And we will get that out to everyone who's registered. And I just promised someone in the chat by no later than next Friday. I hope we'll get it sooner than that, but that's our commitment to you. So, and again, our Systems Change Community Engagement Grants will open for submissions next Tuesday. Reach out if you've got questions as you navigate that. And I'll close by saying that we just really appreciate all of you being on this journey with us and look forward to learning together this year. We know that the road ahead is not easy, and it's certainly going to be filled with a few challenges along the way. But our commitment to you is to continue to stand in our core values and approach our work with the same careful listening, reflection, research, and discernment that has guided our process thus far. We thank you in advance for your grace when hiccups occur and your prayers in all things. Have a great afternoon, everyone.